I'm going to walk through this desktop the way most of us do when we're trying to decide if a pre-built gaming PC is worth the money. I've spent a few days setting it up, swapping a few games in and out, and looking at the specs side by side with a few competitors. If you're on the fence about spending a solid chunk of cash on a ready-to-play machine, this review will give you the gritty details you need to know before you click. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation people have with a pre-built like the ZOTAC MEK is the fear of paying a premium for a system that's already been assembled by someone else, only to find out it's not balanced for the games they actually play. In the real world, that usually shows up as a GPU that can crunch frames but a CPU that bottlenecks it, or a power supply that can't handle upgrades down the line. The MEK tries to address that by pairing a brand new NVIDIA GeForce RTX 5060 with a Ryzen 5 5500, both of which sit squarely in the mid-range tier. On paper that sounds like a comfortable sweet spot for 1080p to 1440p gaming, but the proof is in how it behaves once you load it with a typical modern library. Setting it up was straightforward. The box arrives with the tower already assembled, a single HDMI cable, and a Wi-Fi 6E antenna. Plug it in, power it up, and Windows 11 Home runs its initial setup in under 5 minutes. The first thing I noticed was the Wi-Fi 6E connection. On a 5 GHz network I was getting consistent 900 megabits per second speeds, which means you can stream a game from the cloud or download large patches without the usual hiccups you sometimes see on older 802.11 AC adapters. That makes the MEK a good fit for people who live in apartments where running Ethernet isn't an option. The real test is gaming performance. I ran a mix of titles, a fast-paced shooter like Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, an open-world adventure such as Elden Ring, and a competitive esports title **Valorant Star. In Modern Warfare 2 the RTX 5060 kept a solid 7580 frames per second at 1080p with high settings, and you could push it to 1440p without dropping below 60 frames per second on medium-high presets. Elden Ring is more demanding on the CPU, and here the Ryzen 5 5500 showed its limits. I got around 55 frames per second at 1080p on medium settings, which is still playable but not the buttery smooth experience you'd hope for in a title that thrives on high frame rates. Valorant was a no-brainer. The machine hit a stable 150,160 frames per second at 1080p, so competitive players will feel perfectly at home. One thing that often trips up buyers is thermals. The MEK uses what ZOTAC calls smart design, a top-mounted intake fan and a rear exhaust that together keep the GPU and CPU temperatures under control during long sessions. In my testing, the GPU hovered around 70 degrees and the CPU around 68 degrees after an hour of continuous play. That's comfortable, but the fans were audible about a 45 dB hum on a quiet room. If you value a silent setup for streaming or just don't want the PC to drown out conversation, you'll need to accept that the cooling solution trades noise for heat management. For many gamers that's an acceptable compromise, but it's something to flag if you're building a bedroom rig. Another hidden trade-off is upgradability. The MEK is built with a standard ATX form factor, and the interior is relatively accessible. Just remove a side panel and you can see the components. The 650W80 Plus Gold PSU is decent for the current hardware, but it leaves limited headroom if you plan to swap the RTX 5060 for a higher-end RTX 4070 or add a second GPU down the road. The power connectors are all present, but the PSU's modularity is limited, so you might end up with extra cables cluttering the case. In practice, this means the system is perfect for a buy-and-play-now scenario, but serious upgraders will need to consider a PSU upgrade sooner rather than later. Now, who should actually consider this machine? If you are a casual to semi-hardcore gamer who streams on Twitch a few times a week, plays a mix of AAA titles and indie games, and doesn't want to spend the time or money building a PC from scratch, the MEK hits a sweet spot. The included 16 GB of DDR4 RAM is ample for current games, and the 1 TB NVMe SSD gives you quick load times without needing a secondary drive right away. The Wi-Fi 6E and Windows 11 Home out off the box add a layer of convenience that many new builders miss when they assemble a system themselves. On the flip side, if you're a competitive esports player who needs ultra-low latency and a sub-30 FPS variance, or if you're a content creator who routinely renders 4K video, you'll likely outgrow the RTX 5060 and the Ryzen 5 5500 faster than you'd like. Those users tend to benefit more from a higher-end GPU paired with a Ryzen 7 or Intel i7 CPU, and the ability to start with a bigger PSU. Also, the lack of a BIOS flash utility.